Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz, and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before, and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe, and maybe check out my other social media as well. I'm on both Facebook and Twitter. All relevant links are in the description below, and of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of my characters, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Finally, before I begin my Simsational story, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey. I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now we've gotten that over with. Let's go. Today's story is from Over to Oberon, and we're at chapter 5. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though. So without further ado, Oberon Down was exasperated. He and girlfriend Giselle had only been together for a year, and then, just a few months before he'd graduated college, she had fallen pregnant. They'd moved in with Oberon's parents while he'd finished his exams before starting a job in his father's laboratory, and everything was going along smoothly. Until suddenly Giselle had thrown a spanner in the works. Giselle was sick of feeling like a servant in someone else's home. Literally nobody else in the family, except her, ever did any housework. It wasn't fair, and it wasn't right. Just because she was pregnant with his child did not mean that they'd all gone back in time, and she had to act like his housewife and his mother's slave. Giselle was firm with Oberon. Like she explained to him and his younger sister Cosmos, it wasn't as though she didn't have other options. She loved Oberon, and she wanted to be with him and raise this baby together. But he had to pull his parents into line and get them to understand that they were being unfair. Oberon tried to talk to his father about it, and Magnus heard him out patiently, before presenting another perspective. The way Magnus and Kalia saw it, of course they provided free accommodation and etc. for their own children. But Giselle wasn't their child. Although she carried their grandchild within her, that child had yet to be born, and until it was, they had absolutely no responsibility to bankroll Giselle herself. It was only fair that in lieu of rent, she did some basic housework for the family. When Oberon came back to Giselle with the announcement that he'd spoken to his parents and they all agreed that she had to continue to earn her way, she lost it with him. Was he kidding her? She was supposed to be his partner, but instead of that, it was as though his parents were his partner, and she was being treated like their mutual child. Giselle loved Oberon, but sometimes love just wasn't enough to keep a relationship alive. You needed to share the same values, hopes, and dreams for the future. Oberon wanted to be a mad scientist, just like his dad, with Giselle at home with the kids and all that white picket fence stuff. But that wasn't who Giselle was. Giselle was a creative, strong-minded and individual young woman who would rather live on her own and do it all alone than stand subserviently in the shadows behind some man. She would have gone to the ends of the earth with Oberon, but with him, not behind him, and certainly not at home watching passively as he went alone. she broke up with him and got a place of her own. After Giselle left, Oberon fell into a deep depression, spending most of his time either at work or downstairs in the granny flat sleeping. His parents were worried about him. They hadn't seen much of him in weeks, but they also had his teenage sister Cosmos to contend with, and her issues were kind of overwhelming. Cosmos had recently run away to Solani and refused to come home. She was squatting on a public beach in a tent and hadn't been to school for quite a while now. His own fog of depression was so deep that Oberon was only dimly aware of what was going on with his sister, although he had texted to make sure she was okay. Cosmos had reassured her older brother that she was all right, and even called him to tell him her side of the story. They had a history of always being honest with one another, and Oberon was glad that Cosmos trusted him enough to tell him the truth. His conversation with his little sister finished, and he was left to reflect on how good it had been to talk to someone. Ever since Giselle had left him, Oberon had kept to himself. He knew his family loved him, and he loved them, but he missed the intimacy of a relationship. Giselle had always been so interested in him, his day, his opinions, and his well-being, in a way that no one else ever had, and he missed that. Giselle didn't miss it, and she didn't miss Oberon. That's what she told herself anyway, as she gave birth to their daughter alone at the San Mishono hospital. She had nearly called Oberon while she was in labour, but had decided against it at the very last moment. This was hers. Giselle had actually done quite well for herself in the months since she had left Oberon and his oppressive family behind. She was working as a freelancer, creating custom candles and other fabricated objects to sell on Plopsy, and making surprisingly good money at it. More than enough to be comfortable. Of course, Oberon did eventually get to meet his daughter. Giselle texted him a few days after she brought the baby home, and kindly invited him over to meet Sapphire. Named for her blue skin, she was very obviously his daughter, and he suspected that, like her Aunt Cosmos, she would be unable to morph into a human shell like he could. After half an hour of time with the baby, Oberon was shocked to find Giselle asking him to leave, and worse, to not come back. She had allowed him to meet his daughter as a courtesy, but she and Sapphire didn't need or want Oberon in their lives. Oberon was devastated. How was he going to cope without his family? And that brings us to the end of Chapter 5 of Over to Oberon. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't. It's your life. Anyway, bye!